A huge topic in most creative spaces, especially the writing and art communities, revolves around the one sentence: separate the art from the artist. Before we begin, what does this saying mean? Well, it is most commonly used around controversial creators who still have a sizable fan base. It goes with the idea that you do not have to like the artist to enjoy what they make, and that the value of the art should be separate from the transgressions of the artist. Now, to get the two most used examples out of the way first, the funny Austrian painter and H.P. Lovecraft. The Austrian painter was terrible at painting, therefore, I do not believe he's a good example when discussing this topic. Even rookie artists can pick up on the technical faults and lack of perspective talent. It could be used as an example of how hatred betrays art, but that is for a separate video entirely. Secondly, H.P. Lovecraft was racist even for the time period. Persons who were racist at the time found issue with his various ideologies. However, despite the disturbed person H.P. Lovecraft was, his works have had an undeniable influence on many forms of media nowadays. Due to this, I feel there is a lot more to dive into, and again, it would be more fair to dedicate an entire video to this particular case, as I do not feel it would do justice to all the nuances of this argument. There is also the benefit that both of these individuals have been deceased for quite a while, meaning that any financial backing from supporting their works do not go to the artists. With this in mind, I feel it is a good point to say that we are talking more about modern artists who would still be around to reap the rewards for their artwork. Now, there are many who argue for and against this ideal, and I thought it'd be interesting to give my take on some of the more common arguments on both sides. So, to begin with, let's look at the arguments for separating the art from the artist. Point 1: artistic merit. Art should be based off of its own inherent quality and the impact it has on the viewer rather than the artist's personal life. I believe that I can enjoy a piece of art without knowing who made it. This is because, to me, the artwork is what I'm criticising, not the artists themselves. And even though some of the biggest artists created masterpieces, I am fond of the expression, art is in the eye of the beholder. Or to put it plainly, the viewer is the one who decides the value of an art piece, not the artist and not the critics. Loss of cultural heritage. Disregarding the work of problematic artists could lead to the loss of important artistic contributions to society. This is an example of another morally grey dilemma. Cultures have different levels on what they find acceptable, and I am usually on the side of uncensoring art, especially in a historical setting. I understand that other countries do not hold the same beliefs that I do. This is reflected throughout history, and if we begin censoring what we found problematic, we would be censoring a lot of past events that led us to who we are today. We would not hold the same beliefs nowadays if we had not made the mistakes we did. And I feel that acknowledging these mistakes via the medium of art is one of the best ways to immortalise those lessons. Individual agency. People should have the right to decide whether or not to engage with an artist's work based on their personal ethics. This is the point I agree with the most, as it gives agency to the viewer and leaves the decision to each individual rather than attempting to paint everyone with the same brush. Some people cannot separate the art from the artist, and some can. And I feel that giving both sides the same level of respect leads to more beneficial discussions and debates. Contextual understanding. Examining the artist's background and intentions can enrich the interpretation of the artwork, but should not automatically disqualify it. Now, I both agree and disagree with this point. In one sense, I feel it is important as art can give us an insight into why certain people did certain actions. However, I also do not want to excuse those actions either. This is a point that perfectly highlights the duality of the situation and displays how it is okay to be split on your opinions. Now let us look at arguments against separating the art from the artist. It is a reflection of the artist. Art is often a direct expression of the artist's thoughts, experiences, and worldview, making it difficult to completely detach the creator from the creation. Now, I find this point hard to agree on, as not all art is that deep, nor is it always about the artist per se. For example, there are plenty of songs, books, and artwork that are high fantasy, and to say that they are all reflections of the artists would be a stretch. This is a point that is so varied, I believe it's best to take it from art piece by art piece, rather than attempting to put it all under the same umbrella. Impact on victims. Separating art from the artist can minimize the pain and experiences of those directly affected by the artist's actions. This is one of the strongest arguments, especially when we are contextually talking about more modern art. I feel as though, once time has passed and no one is around who can benefit from or was victimised by the artwork, that it is then okay to separate the art from the artist. However, if there are people who are directly being victimised, then I think there must be accountability towards the artist and their art. Enabling harmful behaviour. By continuing to consume an artist's work despite knowledge of their problematic actions, one could inadvertently be supporting those behaviours. Again, this is a very strong point. Let us say we have an artist accused of sexual misconduct. I would not be comfortable with the knowledge that I'm supporting their legal costs when there is heavy evidence set against them. I believe it to be what the person is accused of and how heinous the actions are. Should an artist who was racist in their youth but has shown growth as a person be held to the same standard as a convicted felon? I would argue no, as one has displayed that they have learnt from their actions and changed. Moral responsibility. Consumers of art have a responsibility to consider the ethical implications of supporting certain artists. This point rubs me the wrong way, as I feel it's taking the responsibility of not being a terrible person away from the artist and instead putting it onto someone who may not even know what happened. If you are aware of the situation, I believe you are capable of coming up with your own understanding of whether you want to still support the artist or if you want to hold them accountable by withholding your funding. However, ultimately, the weight of responsibility should be on the shoulders of the artists, not the audience. Overall, the decision is up to you. I do not believe that there is a right or wrong answer in regards to separating artist from the artwork, and it is down to the beliefs of those viewing it whether they wish to do that for themselves or not. Art is an important staple in human history. It can inspire feelings of hope and joy, or hate and dread, all dependent on the artist's talent. Art is subjective, and life is not black and white, rather it is morally grey. And sometimes there is no correct answer. But what do you guys think? I want to know in the comments below. All I ask is that we remain respectful and have an open discussion. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video.